Welcome to The Inclusive Shift, the podcast where we explore what it really takes to build a workplace that embraces neurodiversity. I'm Nick Nagzam, and in each episode, I sit down with neurodivergent professionals, leaders, and experts to hear their stories, challenges, and insights on creating inclusive workplaces.
So, Akhil, you've had such a fascinating career, be it from biochemical engineering to food science, and now into marketing, be it through chocolate and cola, small goods, and now in biotech. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do outside of work?
Yeah, hi, Nick. Thank you, first of all, for having me. And yeah, also my kind of career journey kind of looks like someone who has ADHD. So that's just foreshadowing out. Anyway, so outside of work, I suppose I do powerlifting and I do like that. And, really basic stuff. I love going to kind of food places. I enjoy that. Yeah, sometimes good concerts that's there. And a lot of the time it's anything which is quirky or interesting that's happening. I love to participate in that. But a lot of my time, my spare time now, often ends up being with workout schedules and trying to find the optimum workout because I'm obsessed with it right now because I really need to hit a goal weight that I've been trying for the last 8 years. So that's what I am trying at this point of time. Well, quite frankly, till last week, I did not have anything else going on because of the MBA, as you and I both know. So practically my entire social life was the MBA. So I think ask me this question in another 3 months. I'll tell you have more interesting things to kind of do.
Absolutely. So you were diagnosed with ADHD later in life.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
That was interesting. So I think this is a pretty common theme amongst millennials in general. My diagnosis came during COVID, but not of ADHD. My diagnosis actually came of depression and anxiety during that point of time, and it was because something was not right. And my wife was like, maybe you should go get this looked at. So I was like, yeah, okay, I'll have a look at. So I spent like 2 years trying to figure out depression, anxiety, and I was on antidepressants that I took it at that point of time. And after like, I think 1.5 years, my therapist kind of said, there's like, looks like we've kind of gotten to the root of your depression and anxiety, but it's still quite not solved there. Just maybe we should do a test to eliminate a couple of other things in case there's some underlying things. So she just gave like a top line Connors test, which is like a short version, and then you go through a big version. And then she was like, yeah, you're ADHD. So I was like, interesting. So that's how it came across.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So you've often kind of described your ADHD to me as be it ADHD that has ADHD.
Yeah.
What does that feel like day to day?
This is the funny thing of someone who's been diagnosed later in life. You don't know what it's supposed to feel if not like this. I guess that's the tricky bit. It's you don't have a metric to kind of define what should normal technically feel like. So since you've kind of been in this zone, you just assume that this is how everybody thinks. And when you meet someone who doesn't think that way and you go like, shit, is that how everyone else thinks? So that's kind of the light bulb moment. Combined type presents itself apparently differently in different scenarios. So for me personally, it's been a mixture of, I kind of describe it as like there's on one side, there's a massive volcano eruption of ideas that's going, and then automatically on the other side, it's like I want to do all those things, but none of those things I can actually do. So I'm just going to sit in the bed and just doom scroll away. So they kind of fight with each other more often than not. So yeah, that's why I think the best way to describe it is like my ADHD as ADHD, can't figure out which one do you want to go at this point of time. So yeah, that's my kind of 39 years of experience of being with it. Yeah. Well, I didn't know it was a challenge. That was the problem. Because someone told me, like, sometimes the tricky bit is, what did she say? She was saying that it's much easier to diagnose ADHD in stupid children. And obviously I'm being facetious here. When I say stupid children, it's like if you're not like relatively smart, because it presents in much more simple ways. If you are a relatively smarter child, you kind of develop your own coping mechanisms so much early in life that you learn how to mask it. And that masking just becomes the norm. So it becomes tricky and it becomes a part of your personality. And that's the hard bit, because they're like, it's fine. Nothing is going on at the surface, but deep down inside, I was forming, I guess, my worldview about how I see the world, how things should and should not affect me, how I deal with problems, how I either press them down or, use anxiety as a fuel or use frustration and fear and depression. So all those things kind of morphed. So my learning is just get diagnosed early, even if it's not. It's much easier to deal with when you're a child because you understand coping mechanisms much earlier. There is also the aspect of growing up in Southeast Asia where none of this is kind of considered the norm.
Yeah.
So there's the intersectionality that comes into play as well. But yeah, I mean, I grew up in India, in Bangalore, and the mental illness, unless it presents somatically. So you don't talk about psychological problems. It's often with shut up and work harder. Just fix it. Just work on the problem to solve it.
Absolutely.
So yeah, that's kind of the environment that you grew up in, which doesn't make it easy to kind of recognize.
Yeah, I guess there's a little bit of a culture shift, be it from being in India as opposed to being here in Australia.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And the way that we treat mental health as opposed to be it over there as well.
Yeah. Mind you, I think even here, mental health treatment is very, very different based on socioeconomic groups as well.
Yes.
There are still socioeconomic groups which can totally behave like as if it was back in India, like they just don't recognize it. It's often medicated with booze and drugs. That's kind of the norm. And I think I'm fortunate that I was able to find shall we say, a cohort of people, family and friends who kind of knew about it out here, and they were able to kind of push me, mostly my wife, because she comes from that psychology background. So I was lucky to kind of have that in my circle of influence and trust. Yeah, that helped. But I know there could be a lot of people who don't.
So since being diagnosed, how has your work experience sort of changed or shifted?
Sometimes it's like knowing the name of the demon is kind of important to understand what's happening. I have a language to understand why not I am doing it. So I guess that way it's shifted. Being aware of the things that I guess I would do as a habit and recognizing them as their patterns is probably the biggest shift that happens in terms of work, so you can structure around it. And also, I think for me, going on medication has been a location there was a moment when my brain chatter just quietened out. That was like, is this how normies feel?
I like to think of it more like, have you ever seen the Limitless movie?
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that instant clarity of kind of
Yes.
being able to see the world.
It was less that, to be honest with you, for me. I mean, I really wanted that pill because I'm like, okay, now I should be able to do equations in my mind. Didn't really work like that. Yeah, I really wish it did. But I think to me, it felt like this. It was like you're in a very, very noisy club, and this is like crescendo of the music is playing, and you are there sitting and doing your school homework, and you're concentrating trying to do differential calculus, let's say. I'm just going to pick a hard math, like not that I was. But once you take the medicine, slowly, the music kind of lowers in volume, the lights kind of dim, they kind of match. And now you are able to there's a table lamp that kind of appears and you're able to see what's happening. That's the description for me that happened. Like the volume goes down, the lights kind of go a little bit less jumpy, and I am able to kind of see what I am doing a little bit better, and I actually have like a bit of a drive to say, okay, I actually want to solve this, and I'm not going to get distracted by the flashy light and someone is playing, please don't stop the music at the back end. That's how I kind of describe it. So I'm still an idiot on certain things. I still don't get it, but I was able to kind of put my laser light and my torch in that direction. So that's what was kind of the shift for me when I took the medication. It was instant. Like it was literally an instant that when it happened. So yeah, I'm like, this is brilliant.
Oh, fantastic to hear.
Yeah.
So now that you're under the medication, do you still face common challenges or challenges within the workplace that you need to kind of adjust to?
Yeah, I do. I think one of the most common ones is I find I have to time myself during the period of the medication efficiency. But that doesn't mean that the other things kind of go away. Previous times, I think there's a couple of examples where when it came down to, I guess, too many projects, let's say, going on, but there's more information that's being thrown at you and you're kind of shifting and moving along with that. verbal information to take that on was very difficult because my brain was already working on multithings. Plus I'm getting feedback and someone's tapping their pen on the side there. So I'm processing all this thing. And I just couldn't, all of a sudden someone is saying, okay, we need to do this, blah, blah. All I could hear was, that's basically what was happening. So for me, I'm like, okay, what am I supposed to remember? So that becomes quite challenging. The other thing was sometimes and I think a lot of people do this, when there's an email comes in and when you are worried about stuff happening, whether there's the economy is bad or some external factors are there, you're wondering, how should I frame this? Will this turn into something bigger than what I have? Because I imagine all the possibilities and branches from a one single node that can happen, and it splits into those things. So I just sit on it saying, should I do it? Should I not do it? I'll wait. Let me see how much I can push it. That presents as a challenge. That does come off sometimes as someone is just, why did you just write the email and do it? And I'm like, well, you don't really understand. I'm thinking about all the other multiple possibilities the email could be interpreted as. So that kind of slows you down a little bit. This was the challenge I had to begin with till I actually understood what I was doing, right? That's how it often presents when you start your career. At the later stages, I think what happens is that when you're managing teams, it starts to get tricky because you're so kind of in the moment that you're trying to process that information and give that information to other people, you forget to give context to other people. So you kind of come off as like, why is he saying to do that whereas he's not doing that? Like, so it becomes a differential in terms of leadership. So they see you as more of a just, someone just gives the order, do it, and don't kind of give me in context, because I've already made that connection inside my head and I'm like, just move on from it. So that's the part that I have to learn, saying, how do I go back and kind of explain stuff and give context and why that's important.
So how have you then learned to navigate through those challenges and kind of circumvent them or prevent them from occurring?
Yeah, look, you can't prevent them 100% of the time. I think it matters how your psychological safety is within that organizational environment sometimes. Like if you are upfront about it and say, look, this is kind of how I operate. This is not on you. This is just me. But I will try my level best to explain it in ways. And you kind of have to remind yourself, and it just becomes a discipline. So my strategy is that every time I am explaining, or if I set up a meeting with someone, if I think I have half an hour, I will give 1 hour time to it, because I'm like, I will spend a little bit more time explaining the context, because I have extremely poor, well, they call it time blindness, right? So I cannot, I struggle to cognitively process the difference between 5 minutes and 20 minutes. I'm aware what is a 5 and a 20 minute, but I don't have, there's a bit of a blindness that comes in my conditions. So in order to kind of circumvent that, I build systems and strategies around me. So one is I keep extra buffer at the end of it, and I over explain something, and I tend to overstate the same thing over and over again, hoping the intent there is, I'm going to give you more information than less information. So that's the part. So I spend more time trying to cut and pare that information, but I have to make sure that I have to give all the information. You can take it or leave it. So that means I do come off as like someone who loves the sound of his own voice. But what I'm actually trying to do is I'm trying to give you more context so that you don't misinterpret where I'm coming from. And I think that's the challenge sometimes.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'd love to kind of get your thoughts around masking, or be it camouflaging. So being a late diagnosed combined ADHD, you probably wouldn't have known if you were camouflaging or masking.
Yeah.
How have you kind of started to learn about, be it your type of masking, and what does that look like for you?
I think that's an unraveling process. I'm still kind of discovering it, right? It was an interesting thing. So I was thinking about this literally 2 days ago. I was watching this movie, I don't know, Batman Dark Knight Rises. Have you seen that movie? Yeah. There's a dialogue that happens between Robin and Bruce Wayne. Blake, well, that's his character's name. So he says, like, a billionaire orphan was our hero, and I realized very early that I have to learn to practice that smile, even though I was very angry. And when I saw you had the same face. So that was the mask that you had on. Bullshit. When you see from Christopher Nolan's perspective, it was a really lazy, crappy way of kind of saying that I figured out who you are as a Batman. But to me, that is basically a really good metaphor that I'm pretty good at picking up a lot of micro social cues from people because of that input of information that I'm getting and my brain is processing. But I'm also very aware that if I convert that and give it across, that may not be useful to someone who does not understand this condition. So I have to put on that mask. I have to kind of tailor my personality specifically to the instant over here. And I can't help it. It comes from a place that I want to make the other person feel comfortable, and I don't want to kind of give you a viewpoint of how my brain actually is, because it will be useful. It's if you see another ADHD person talking about it, it's like they will get it, and the third person just going, you just spoke about 20 million things. How did you make sense of it? It's like, yeah, kind of got on the same wavelength, and I knew how you were catching on from that to that. You saw the TV edge of the corner, you went from corner to another thing. I'm like, yeah, I can see your chain of thought follow through, because that's roughly 90% of the time I may have followed that. So for me, masking was more about taking a position of empathy. Is like, if this person is talking to me, what is that I can do to make them a little bit more comfortable and walk away feeling a little bit better, either with more information or about themselves, that can potentially help them. Now that changes for me. So I have been masking, pretty much doing this my entire life. Put me in a group of introverts, I would try to pretend to be an introvert. Put me in a group of extreme extrovert, I will try to outshine the extroverts, because feeding off the energy that is there, that's kind of how, in a very rough way, masking works. That's just for external environments. I think for internal environments, that's more tricky, because I am beginning to kind of truly understand what is my personality, and I really don't have an answer to that question at this point. The one thing which was an interesting development was, I think someone said that you've become a lot more aggressive. And so I was talking to my partner about this, and she's like, do you think I've become more aggressive? She's like, it's not that you have become aggressive, it's just that now you are a lot more capable of standing your ground and putting your ideas across compared to what it was before. So I'm like, okay, that's interesting. Tell me more. So I believe the sum total of what she was trying to say is that I feel less now kind of trying to please people and kind of be my total kind of completely acceptable personality to exactly cater for you, less now. And I'm able to kind of put my thoughts of what I'm thinking. So that can sometimes, people who know me for a lot long can come off as aggressive, saying, oh, why is he not agreeing with me? Because that's such a shift in what this person was originally doing. It's like, I think that, to me, that feels like unmasking. Again, not a professional. I don't know what it is. I need to kind of restart the process to understand, is this what I think unmasking is or not?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm being more kind of careful and observant about how I am doing certain things and noticing my thought patterns a lot more, because my voice is a lot quieter inside my head. So I think that's, in a lot of words, hopefully kind of makes sense.
Certainly does.
Yeah.
Jumping back, I mean, you've made mention, obviously, put you in a room with other people that are ADHD, and you can have 1,000 different conversations, but you both understand exactly what's going on. Have you ever heard of the double empathy problem?
Double empathy problem?
Yeah.
Give me more. I may not know the technical term, but I may have.
So
yeah.
The premise behind the double empathy problem is that, be it put two neurodivergent people in the same room and they'll understand. Put a neurodivergent and a neurotypical, and they may not understand each other, or it'll take longer to get that.
Got it. Okay. Yeah.
Because there's a disconnect in the way that we communicate.
Yeah. Okay.
What challenges have you maybe noticed when speaking to neurotypical people within the workplace?
Yeah, look, I mean, this is the hard bit. Sometimes I don't know if the person is neurotypical or neurodivergent, first of all, because I think that's one challenge. And if each neurodivergent personality presents differently across gender, across cultures, there's such a spectrum that it can do, right? So, but I can only say that what my neurodivergence, how different it is to the other person's neurodivergence, right? If it's a different style, different flavor, I have seen this play out a couple of times. So one is, I think, my way of understanding the world is often about questioning the baseline, even though I may know that that may not be true. So if someone says, okay, this is a red table, obviously this is just an illustrative example. I'm like, really? Is it really red? How do you define red? It's not that I don't agree with them, or like I'm not against them. It's just that I am really questioning my own thought, because I've always been so wrong about certain things. It's like I am trying to reascertain the reality baseline. It's like, where are we starting from out here? It's like, is this a table, first of all? Let's kind of go back. Now that sometimes can be, I don't know, can be seen as like, oh, it takes too long to explain it to him. Why doesn't he get it? It's like, I've already got this. I'm really getting to the point to say, do we really understand it together? I'm being the devil's advocate out here to really question the reality. So that sometimes can be challenging in an environment which is time poor, and which is in a work context where there is no psychological safety to kind of explore that space, right? So that is where it can be challenging. But again, I've learned to kind of overcome it through strategy and tactics, but you can't truly be completely myself over there. So I think that's one key challenge I find, where I'm truly asking the question in clarity, and people think it can come out as like very, I guess, debating or argumentative, and that is like, oh, like he just doesn't get it. When neurotypical sometimes can be like, yeah, whatever, doesn't matter. I'm like, but it does matter to me, because I can see how that bit can connect to 20 other things at the bottom line. And that's the part sometimes can be quite hard. So learning to let go is my challenge in some way. So yeah, that basically has presented itself in many a times. And it does present in so many different ways every day of my life still. So
Learning to let go is definitely a challenge. What would you like to see in a modern workplace be changed to become more inclusive?
yeah, look, I mean, I think if I had a magic wand, at this point of time, I genuinely say I don't know. That's the true reason. And the reason why I say I don't know is because, as someone who has been diagnosed much later in life, my kind of patterns were set. So it's very hard for me to imagine a world when this was all relatively easy for me. Right? So, but my discovery is the thing that makes it super easy is first to kind of just accept that this is a reality and let people be aware that there are people who think like this, who think differently. It's not a negative, it's not a positive. It's like someone has brown hair, and someone has blonde hair, and someone has black hair. That's how common it should be, just comes in different flavors. I don't think there should be any special treatment, but there should be some areas where I suppose natural aptitude within your jobs can be crafted specifically to the neurodivergence in specific area, and not have the same standards as neurotypical, which is there, because you're trying to measure, I guess, a fish's ability to climb a tree in some way. So it's like it's never going to happen, right? Like there might be some exceptional fish that might be able to fight the need and be able to climb the tree, but that's going to be like really, really typical. Check them while they're swimming. They'll be amazing at swimming. And don't ask a monkey to do the same thing for swimming. So I think that's the part that is I think would be super helpful, to actually accept that there are different people with different skill sets, which have different superpowers, and be okay with letting them swim in that lane, and you don't shortchange the others. I think that's the closest thing I can think of. Maybe another thing would be probably make people, I guess people should be more aware that this is a thing, this is a situation, and not have stigma associated with it. So people are okay to kind of say, oh yeah, I'm neurodivergent. It's fine. It's absolutely fine to kind of say that. It's just that this is my thing, Nick. I don't know if you have experienced this, but every time someone brings up, what about neurodivergence in like a meeting setting or something, everyone kind of hushes down. The tone just hushes, and people are like, yeah, so for people who explain mental health issues, like all of a sudden there's like this kid gloves which comes into the picture. It's like, what kind of legal issue that's there? It's like, I don't think any neurodivergent really cares about that. They're just asking the question is like, how do I process information differently? I don't think it's a special treatment that they're asking for. And that hush, I can see all of a sudden for someone with ADHD, you're like, man, what did I do wrong here? Was I supposed to ask it? That then that rejection sensitivity dysphoria kicks in, and you're like, shit, now they're going to look at me. They're going to think I am like this idiot who's asking this question. Maybe they think I want special treatment. All these thoughts, they're my thoughts. Nobody's probably thinking that. They're like, oh, you don't know about this. That's most likely what they're thinking. Yeah.
It can definitely be a challenge. From my perspective there, normally if someone's asking, what about neurodivergence? It's a lot of people look at it from a tokenistic perspective,
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
don't look at it as an inclusive perspective. So
Yes. Yeah.
if you adjust, be it the organization's policies or processes to align to be it supporting neurodivergence,
Yeah.
typically you'll find that the process becomes better for everybody.
Yes, it does.
But many organizations struggle to see that they can make things better for everybody
Hmm.
by becoming more inclusive.
Yeah, I also think that sometimes whoever brings it up, it becomes their problem.
Sometimes.
So it's like, oh, so you brought up neurodivergence, so maybe you want to lead a committee on that, and then all of a sudden it's like, shit, this become a part of my job now again. And it's like, I was just trying to point out something that was missing. And so I think you're right. Like people have lack of awareness, lack of policies to kind of do it. But also I just feel I feel neurodivergence has bad marketing. That's what I think.
So what would a truly inclusive workplace look like for you then?
So I have this fantasy of a truly inclusive workplace looks like a Charles Xavier School for the mutants. So where individual kind of powers are celebrated, which by the way, I have my own like conspiracy theory going on that comic book series is a kind of a way, it's a metaphor for neurodivergence in a way. Mutants having different powers and different capabilities, but they still kind of struggle to interact in a day-to-day. So I think there's a lot to kind of learn from that, where at the head of the organization, which if we can assume X-Men is an organization here, Charles Xavier himself is a neurodivergent. So having representation at the top level, I think that's where it starts with, because that builds an empathy. When you can see what either you or your child or someone that you love going through this, that changes the perspective. It becomes very real for you that this problem, I won't say problem, this situation does exist, and it's a gap in the market, right? So that's a kind of how I see from a workplace perspective, where everyone is suited, has a special kind of place for what they want to do. This is my kind of wish list. But in the short term, I think something simple would be just being aware. Take away the fear of saying you are neurodivergent or not, and also kind of have a, within the HR policy, I don't want it to be a specific department's policy, in some sort of a leadership policy, figure out that how these individuals, us, can be utilized better. Like, how can we kind of structure things that their superpowers can actually be put to use? Right. So one of my really, really good friends, he has a mild form of ASD. The superpower that he's super structured, extremely well organized. So that's the kind of person you want on a project team when there's multiple things going on, right? But the problem happens is that the moment when chaos starts to hit, when multiple things, it really messes with his scheduling. That's when I can come in, because I am the calmest person you can find when multiple things are going wrong, because the chaos is my natural state, right? So in that chaos state, I kind of take over. I'm like, all right, leave this be. I got this. You can do this. You can do this. You can do that. You need to help me. I need to do this. But then I lose my pen and I lose my shit over it. So different strengths. So recognizing, saying, okay, there's a problem. We have fire going on. Let's bring Iceman here to kind of freeze it. We have a problem where there are too many, people with, I don't know, iron in their body trying to attack us. Let's bring Magneto in to solve that problem. So having that understanding helps. So then from that perspective, layer up, if you see that you need to have a relatively even representation from a leadership level, and it needs to be kind of celebrated, saying we have a Charles Xavier on that board. Sorry, I keep going on about comic books and movies, but I just find it's a good metaphor to sometimes understand it.
There are so many phenomenal references in pop culture. We could be here for hours.
Yes.
Turning the tables, do you have any question for me?
Well, I suppose my question, it's not really a question. I suppose I'm curious as to see that, have you encountered the negative side of it, I suppose? It's like, what's the cost of kind of making the status quo remain the same? What's the cost of changing all this? I suppose there's a benefit, but there's always going to be a cost to this. Have you thought about that perspective?
I haven't necessarily looked at or evaluated, be it what the impact would be if we do make the change to become more inclusive. all the research shows that if you do become more inclusive, it becomes a better thing to do. So I'm yet to see a negative impact. There's a level of society that will never want to change.
Yep.
I don't know that we'll ever get them to change.
Hmm.
But I believe that we should be able to become a more inclusive culture and both in a workplace and outside the workplace as well.
Yeah. I wondered about the cost sometimes. I think the cost is short term.
Yeah.
That's the reality of it, right? I think the question that I worry about is, and this is, I guess, a very macro lens on looking at something, saying we seem to have kind of moved into a world where long-term thinking almost is detrimental, whether it's be business, whether it's politics, whether it's anything. So it's almost like we don't want to do things which are kind of the benefits will kind of come not now, but like 10, 15 years down the line. And we can, I mean, in fact, we've seen that the S&P 500 companies are not there in the top as long as they used to be in 1975. Average time spent within an S&P 500 actually don't stay that long. They actually die out pretty quickly. So I sometimes feel that I wouldn't say it's a symptom, but it's kind of like weird a shift in the matrix. So I think there's going to be a short-term pain. It's trying to find people, organizations, and environments where they're ready to kind of take that short-term pain for the long-term gain. And I think that's the challenge sometimes. I worry how it can be positioned differently.
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to see more organizations taking the step to become inclusive.
Yeah.
And that there are some amazing global studies being done on supporting neurodivergence. I think there was a brand new one that just came out of EY last month around neurodivergence and the top skills for neurodivergence as well.
Right. Okay.
And, that study itself was showing neurodivergents were more likely to leverage things like AI as opposed to their neurotypical counterparts.
Yeah.
Or that you'll see a lot more neurodivergent people stepping into things like security and cybersecurity because of the level of analysis that's required.
Right.
So it's interesting to see kind of the top sort of roles or skill sets that are required or that will be leveraged for neurodivergence.
Yeah. I think the part where if I put the hat of a neurotypical sometimes in managing a team, this is my empathy problem, right? Like we discussed this. It's like I think they can have compassion fatigue.
Yeah.
It's like if you have a team of multiple people, you have someone with neurodivergence type of A, certain with neurodivergence type B, and then sometimes they can't just be together. And this person is a neurotypical, and it's just like I'm just compassioned out here. Like I have no compassion there. What do you think that can be done? Because let's not forget our neurotypicals are also our allies, right? Like what do you think could be there to kind of reduce compassion fatigue amongst them?
I don't know that there's a compassion fatigue element to a degree. Right? The way I see it is very similar to Aaron Meyer's work around culture mapping, right?
Okay.
There's kind of a balance that needs to be in play within any team, be it having neurodivergence or different types of neurodivergence or even genders or cultures within a team. And if you can find the right balance, I think that you'll always have a stronger, high-performing team that can have that level of empathy, but it's finding that right balance. And that's the challenge.
Yeah. No, I get it. Like I always worry about this is like it's like trying to go to a different country and speak a different language, and you're both speaking different languages, while I may be trying to maybe speak broken Spanish and that person might be trying to speak broken English. While we may eventually communicate, but there's a cognitive cost to it in the beginning. Like there's a short-term cost because you're trying so hard, you're tired. So it's not like natural. It's not like smooth. It's not flowing. And I think this is what I meant to say is like, how can organizations kind of be the lubricant to have, I don't know, like a translation app, so as to speak, that is present, that can help it. And I kind of agree with you that AI can kind of bridge that gap so nicely and so easily, where it can, form those structures for you and kind of evaluate you if you don't know how to speak the language. So I think about it just purely from a multilingual workplace perspective.
Absolutely.
So you can have like a little translator, ADHD translator, or a ASD translator.
Well, there are apps out there that are like that. I believe
Yeah.
it's called Neurotranslator,
Oh, is that? Okay.
and it'll allow you to ask it questions from different perspectives. So you can go in and set up your profile to say I'm combined ADHD, or
Right.
in be it other instances, you can specify I'm ASD with PDA profile and
Yeah.
combined ADHD.
Yeah.
And then you go, I'm speaking with someone that has ADHD or that is neurotypical, and you go, this is the situation. This is what I understand it as. Help me understand it from the other person's perspective, and it'll coach you through that scenario from their perspective.
Interesting.
Wow, it's really cool.
Yeah. And it's also voice guided and stuff, is it?
From what I understand, it's text-based.
Oh, right. Okay.
Very similar to be at ChatGPT.
Okay.
But I mean, there's no reason why we couldn't move towards a voice-based
Yeah.
style.
Curious. Yeah. Have you used it?
I haven't used it yet, and it's definitely
Okay.
something I'm willing to
Yeah.
look at. And
That's a good one. I can definitely also look at kind of trying to figure that out as well.
Well, before we wrap up today, is there anything else you'd like to share with the Inclusive Shift?
I guess the only thing I want to share is that we are among you. We are your friends. We are your families. You may not even know it. It's weird. It feels like I'm literally quoting an X-Men movie out here, but we're not. Like I guess I don't want this to become a part of our personality. It's just that we're speaking a different language. We have the same issues. We have the same love, hate things that we do. I wish we could find a language that was easier to do, but that's not the world that we inherit. Let's try to reinvent it, I suppose. Yeah, let's use our powers for what they're differently for.
It's a perfect way to end it up.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Nick.
Thank you for joining me.